impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Aho, relatives. My name is George McCauley, Omaha Nation. I'm a citizen of the Omaha Nation in Nebraska, but reside in the Twin Cities area. As we head into wintertime, many of us will be back together indoors. It's important to make sure you receive your COVID booster shot. Those 65 and over are recommended to receive their booster dose. Older Americans are more at risk for complications for COVID-19. So get your booster shot to make sure you stay safe and healthy this winter. All 3 COVID vaccine boosters have been approved. Find a vaccine site by calling 651-304-9986 or go to this website, vaccineconnector.mn.gov. 651-304-9986. or go to vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies overnight with a low around 24. Tuesday partly sunny with a high near 36. And Wednesday a chance for rain and snow with a high around 33. Vinaigrette is locally owned and has been offering the finest olive oils and vinegars since 2009. They have everything from darker white balsamic to cold-pressed extra virgin olive oils from all over the world. Vinaigrette is located at 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis or at vinaigrettemn.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up. They are going to become more brutal.
Cody Cup, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade, again, which means distant thunder. My colonized name is Robert Pilot, and we discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Wendy, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Alliant Energy, powering beyond.
Hey, a little later today, we're going to have Dr. Stately checking in with us, Wendy. Mm-hmm. And also, we may be playing a clip from 2 years ago when I was with co-founder of the Native American Indian movement, Clyde Belcourt, and we were in the Badlands talking about, and he was telling us how they came up with occupying Wounded Knee. Mm-hmm. So that may be pretty interesting to our listeners. But at first, I just want to say two things here. It was the 49th anniversary, Wendy, of American Indian Movement occupation of Wounded Knee, which lasted some 70-some days, and also really spanned a lot of leaders. And then also we talk about freeing Leonard Peltier every day. You end the show with that. And we had all these great warriors there. We went to Standing Rock because I was too young to go to Wounded Knee, and it was like, this is my generation's Wounded Knee, and
Mhm.
that's something, people like we've had on our show, like Madonna Thunderhawk, who was at Alcatraz, Wounded Knee, the minings in North Dakota in the Black Hills, and Line 3, she was up there, and also, of course, Standing Rock.
Yeah, I have to say, going to Standing Rock for me was one of the most profound, memorable, and something in my life that I'm always going to remember, and it's going to be up there in the top 10 things that not only I, but us as a couple were there to support Standing Rock and fighting against the Dakota pipeline. So
Exactly, and I've said this before, and it's like I'm a big fan to AOC, and she was there, and that spurred her. If you ever,
Mhm.
we saw that documentary with her running for her office. Going up to Standing Rock spurred her to run for office, and
Yeah.
she's doing a fabulous job and for Brooklyn, New
Mhm.
York, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that came from Standing Rock, as you said. This show, for
Mhm.
instance,
Yep.
your career in radio.
Exactly, it did.
Yeah. So I want to jump on this before you have a few minutes here to talk about some stuff,
Mhm.
some animal
Yeah.
things that we talk about are sacred animals here.
Mhm.
I just want to give everyone keep an eye out on the Indian Child Welfare Act in 1978. Um, they are trying to in the Supreme Court has a case right now that they're
Mhm.
hearing today
Yep.
on that, and it's very frightening because I think the complaint is that we're a race as opposed to a sovereign nation, and
Right.
and we're a political standing here in the United States and not a race, and
Mhm.
that needs to be shook out tremendously. And we've had some great guests over the years, like Sandy White Eagle with Blood Memory,
Mhm.
big advocate for ICWA, and ICWA here in the Twin Cities. Minneapolis, the first law office was started here,
Mhm.
way back when. So a lot of history, and we want to keep our families together, and we also
Mhm.
definitely want to keep our native kids plugged into the native ways.
Yeah, there's a study here that children who stay in families or in foster care with Native American family and other members of the tribe or another tribe have better academics.
Yep.
and better self-esteem.
Yeah, when you know where you're at,
Mm-hmm. You know where you come
where you're
from. Yep.
from,
Mm-hmm.
it's really important. And I know it's trauma for many and a high percentage that don't know
Mm-hmm.
where they're at. So when we got a little abbreviated time here,
Yeah.
do you mind giving an update for our sacred animals
Yeah,
here?
no, not at all. With everything that's going on in the Ukraine right now, our hearts are with the people there, and the animals as well. I'm belong to so many animal groups on my social media platform that all day long I'm seeing updates about the animals in Ukraine, and that there's many people who will not leave their animals behind. There's pictures of them with their dogs and cats, and they're carrying their kids and just little belongings that they have. But there is a man, he refuses to abandon his 400 animals in Kyiv. That's a shelter that's in the capital city,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And that he said that he would rather die than leave them. A man in Ukraine has been called a hero for choosing to stay with 400 animals in his shelter in Kyiv. I don't know how I'm saying it right.
You're saying it right the first, Kyiv.
Okay, Kyiv, despite Russian invasion of the country. His name is Andrea Cisternino. He's a former photographer turned animal rescue owner from Rome, Italy. Said he would rather die than leave the animals, which includes dogs, cats, sheep, goats, and at the refuge. So he is there, and helping him with these animals. I can't imagine anyone taking care of 400 animals themselves. I would think that that would be just incredible and really, really hard. But this update that I did get is from Independent, and it was updated 5 hours ago. And there's maybe tomorrow what we can do is post some pictures of him and some of the animals that he's with. There are some pictures of him on social media with him like laying in the barn with one of his pigs. And he really cares about these animals, and he wants to just, stay with them and take care of them and make sure that they're safe. There's also a article here. Let me see if I could bring it up. The cat just jumped up as usual. Heartbreaking photos show Ukrainians clinging to their pets as they flee. And this was just published on the Dodo by Lily Ferrin, and it was dated February 25th at 4:00. But according to recent reports, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia are allowing Ukrainians to bring in their pets across the borders without any veterinary paperwork. So they know that these people are fleeing last minute, and they're allowing their pets to come in without any paperwork. However, there are still many animals in Ukraine in the need of food, medicine, and care. Heroic volunteers and shelter workers are staying behind in the face of missile strikes to care for these homeless animals. And there's lots of different organizations out there who are looking for donations. U Animals, that's a capital U Animals. It's one word. You could look them up. Happy Paw is another nonprofit organization. So take a look and find a good organization out there if you're interested in helping the animals of Ukraine. Our thoughts and prayers are with the animals and the people who care for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw right away what they were letting people cross the border with their animals to freedom in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big deal too.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So later on today, we have Dr. Stately of Native American Community Clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And up next, we're going to hear a little clip from Clyde Belcourt and the anniversary of Wounded Knee. We'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
Bonjour relatives, my name is Deanna Sandycloud. I'm from the Red Lake Nation, and I live in Minneapolis today. As the weather gets colder, you're probably going to spend more time indoors, but it's important to stay safe and healthy. The COVID-19 pandemic is still not over, and now the flu season is upon us. So protect you and your loved ones by getting vaccinated against both the flu and COVID-19. COVID booster shots have now been approved for Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. And you're eligible if you're over 65 and if you're over 18 and have underlying health conditions or work in a high-risk setting. What's cool is your booster shot does not need to be of the same brand as your original series of shots. And you can receive a booster shot of any brand that's available to you. Children over the age of 5 are now eligible for a vaccine as well. So let's protect our relatives in Indian country this winter and get vaccinated. Be a vaccinative like me. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov. Miigwech Bizendawian.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger. Purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, we're going to try and play a little of Clyde here. He is at the Badlands talking about when they decided to go to Wounded Knee. So give me a second here. Tell a few jokes while I set this up. This is like 2021 kind of technology I got going on over
No,
here.
this is like 1990 technology you got going over there, Robert. He's got a tripod with his phone on it. He's going to be playing the video facing the laptop. And for those watching us on Facebook Live, they'll be able to see the video and we'll play the audio. Here we go.
Beautiful white leather outfit. He had his war bonnet on, and I started questioning him. I said, I hear the Sundance going to be over at noon. I thought I was at the wrong place because there was merry-go-rounds going, there were tilt-a-whirls, a Ferris wheel, and then over about that far over that mountain there was a big rodeo going on, big one. And you could hear them, so jumping out, coming out on Raging Bull and all that. And I thought I was in the wrong place. So I went over to start questioning people, and I met Kodok. He was standing on an arm there and looking, and Layman Brightman was there. He was a professor of Indian Studies at Berkeley College. He come over to listen what was going on. And I started telling him that I was going to stop that priest from coming in there. And that's when they told me to see Fusco. And Fusco said he couldn't do anything. They get a permit, and the Catholic priest monitors it. And he said, that's all I do is give advice. And I told him who I was, and he said, I heard about you, Amesters, he said. And I told him what I was going to do, and he says, well, you better go see the warriors first. And he said, if they give you the permission to do it, he says, we'll do it. I'll support you. So of course, I had Russell and Dennis in there already, And I talked to them and kind of embarrassed them. Some of them names were Red Cloud and Gall and all these great chiefs that we had at one time. And they were questioning me and thought it was going to cause a lot of problems and all that. And most of them had been baptized through that Holy Rosary Church and all that. And they had a boarding Indian school going there. And there's a big lawsuit going in now. The same guy, this Father Stantless, for molesting those children like Floyd Hands. Floyd Hands is up in the 70s and 80s. He's part of that lawsuit. And now the bank is claiming, the church is claiming bankruptcy, and all that, and trying to stop that lawsuit. But that's the conditions of the people. They were so beaten down, they didn't feel they could do anything. And I said, well, I'm going to stop that priest tomorrow. They stopped the Sundance at noon, and you could go in and eat at food stands. They had food stands all the way around the arbor. And here I'm reading about Black Elk Speaks in prison, dreaming of the day when I'm going to be able to go to the Sundance. He painted a picture of how beautiful it was. Even the horses were painted. And the horses would even go in and dance the Sundance with the men. This is what I had in my head when I went there. And then found out that, the church was running. The Catholic priest came, and he was about 6'8", big, tall, white, blonde-haired guy. Had all his vestments on. He had these two little altar boys behind him, all dressed just like him. And they were carrying some, turned out to be some wine and some host. They had another glass full of these, a host. And they served communion. And that ended the Sundance. And I said, what? To myself, I said, what? And I was really kind of upset, and I confronted Russell and Dennis and asked them why they're allowing that to happen. And they said, there's nothing you can do. I said, what do you mean there's nothing you can do? We don't put a stop to this, take control of it, might as well dig a hole and jump in there. And that's when they told me to go and see. Footscrow. And the BIA gave him a permit, and then his job was to monitor all that. Here he comes in there, and I went and got in front of him, the arbor, eastern doorway. I wouldn't let him through. You go this way, and I'll go that way. Go this way. The whole crowd was pissed off. Get out of there, you know, belong there. Go back to your way country and all that. You know, they started hollering. And Lehman, he got mad because they started throwing stuff at us. And Lehman got mad, and he wanted to fight. I said, "No, Lehman. No, it's not their fault. This is what they've done to us, the church, and all that." So he come back and asked that priest again to leave. And he said, "I can't go anywhere." "Who are you?" He said. I said, "I'm Clyde Belcourt. I'm one of the founders of the American Indian movement." He said, "I heard about you rabble rousers. Now get out of my way." I said, he had the whole crowd behind him. I said, "Father, please, man, I'm asking you to leave." He said, "I'm not going nowhere." I said, "Oh, yes, you are." And I grabbed an arm, put it around my neck. Lehman did the same thing. Could hear squad cars coming, highway patrol, tribal police, and BIA police, and all them come in there, and they come out and grabbed me and Lehman and took us out, and they handcuffed us together behind our back and loaded us in a squad car and took us to the Rosebud line. And then they jerked us out of the car, and there was a big ditch there. They threw us. We went rolling down that ditch. We were laughing by this time, you know, me and Lehman. And they come down and unhandcuffed and served a paper on us that we're restrained from coming here forever. And being the kind of person I am, you know, and I got judged when I was a little boy, 11 years old. I was judged incorrigible. And that's the way I've been the rest of my life. And I promised Kodog that the next year we'd Sundance at Kodog's Paradise. He said, "You get that priest out there." He said, "We'll dance at Kodog's Paradise in Rosebud." And so that's what we did. 38 of us went over and danced the next year, and they did the same thing to us there. We went to cut the tree, and we're taking it back to the arbor, and all the police showed up and charged us with violating logging ordinances, took the tree from us, put us in jail, and called some friends of mine in Minneapolis, and they came down. They bought money, bailed us out. So we went and got the tree again, and we carried it down to about a mile and a half down to Kodog's Paradise. And 38 of us, the same amount of people that were hung at down in Morton there, Mankato, that many people danced that day. And today on Rosebud, not only Rosebud, on Pine Ridge, there's over 140 some dancers. Everybody, families are dancing together and all that, building their own sweat lodges and all that. Now it's all the way from north central part of Canada all the way down to the tip of South America. Mashika's brother here, they're all dancing today, all bringing back their spiritual ceremony. But that's how we started gaining momentum. Everybody knew what we were doing. They used to drive by us.
Well, Wendy, that wasn't the conversation I thought it was, but it was really interesting. He was talking about his first Sundance experience after reading it, all about it when he was in prison, Clyde Belcourt, about how great Sundance was back in the day, and how the church was still involved. And I know he talks a little more too at a different time. We'll play this, but he talks about how he asked him to leave. So it's invaluable kind of conversation. And I was lucky to go to Wounded Knee with Clyde the last year that he went, and Crow Dog was still alive too, and I got to meet him. and it's just a celebration, I guess, of listening to Clyde today of Wounded Knee and the 49th anniversary.
Clyde had a lot of good stuff to say, and he was a very powerful man. He said he was incorrigible at the age of 11, and it never ended, and that's how he stayed ever since. So
exactly,
good for him.
And I just feel lucky to have met him and had him on the show many times, Wendy. And
you guys used to talk a lot.
Yeah, we talk on the telephone, and it's how much I love history, and he was living history, and it's always good. I've heard the story many other times, but it was pretty. I don't know if you could see, but Badlands were in the background. They were at that park, and it was pretty. I don't know, pretty spiritual. For me, and to hear a living history and hear it from Clyde Belcourt. Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, totally beautiful. I have a blessed life for all the people.
And I'm sure a lot of people appreciated listening to his voice and hearing him today.
Yeah, that was just 2020. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He just recently passed.
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Hey, up next, Dr. Stately checking in with us. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we miss Clyde Belcourt, and just always be happy when you're seeing people and tell them you love them. I always told Clyde that I loved him after every time I saw him.
That's great. Yeah.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Stay healthy this winter by protecting yourself, your family, and your community from COVID-19. Get a vaccine or booster. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, and free, and approved for everyone over the age of 5. Wear a mask outdoors in crowds and indoor settings, and lay low or get tested before visiting family and friends or attending events. To get more tips, schedule your vaccine, or get tested, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. That's ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with any questions. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
Hi, Minnesota. Make sure you tune into my program, the Tom Hartman Program, every weekday from 11 to 2 right here on AM 950. Smart radio for smart people.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
I love the Toyotas I've gotten at Rudy Luther Toyota, but I keep going back because of Luther's top-notch customer service. A great example, the Luther Advantage Card. With every new and used vehicle purchase, you'll get 3 years of 10 cents off per gallon of gas at Holiday Station stores and $6 off the Works car washes. And I can tell you, it will save you a lot of money over 3 years. The Luther Advantage Card keeps you happy in your Rudy Luther vehicle. Find out more at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
We use technology every day to help manage our lives. Why not use it to help manage your medications? St. Paul Corner Drug offers several free tools to keep you on track while taking your medications. Use our mobile app to quickly order a refill, or the Meds on Q application, which turns your smartphone or tablet into your very own personal medication attendant. Email and text messaging options let you know when your medication is ready for pickup, making efficient use of your time. St. Paul Corner Drug, pharmacy the way it should be.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies overnight with a low around 24. Tuesday, partly sunny with a high near 36. And Wednesday, a chance for rain and snow with a high around 33. Tap, taste, and treasure at Vinaigrette. They offer the finest in extra virgin olive oils, white balsamic vinegars, wine vinegars, and more. Reintroduce yourself to all of the many flavors by tasting before you buy. Vinaigrette is located off 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis or at vinaigrettemn.com.
Bijou. I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Well, it's Monday, so that means it's Dr. Stately Day.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Stately, the CEO at Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. And we just kind of shoot the stuff here, but we have important updates and questions that are asked via Facebook and whatever. But we're always really proud and happy to have Dr. Stately. And Dr. Stately, you can kind of see Wendy's back, so I'm doing a lot better psychologically. And the show is moving a lot smoother, but the cat's still yelling at us.
Yeah, well, you know, you can't have everything, Robert.
Exactly. Well,
I'm glad you're back, Wendy, because you know I was starting to worry about his disposition. You know, it was generally modeling over the last couple of weeks. So
yeah, he's back to his regular self now.
His jovial self. Well, actually, I wasn't even here the last 2 weeks, so I don't know what his regular sort of like disposition. But, yeah.
But yeah, just a quick update. Tell our audience where you were and what happened.
Oh my gosh, like you know, like this part of the year is like crazy sauce with hockey. It's like district playoffs, end of the season. We're going into my sons had a great season. We ended up, you know, kind of at the top of the bracket at the end of the year across the state. And we went into the playoffs this year. We did really well. We lost our first game, which put us into the what they call, quote unquote, the losers bracket, because it's a double elimination. Mm-hmm. Dug our way all the way back up to the championship bracket, and we lost again and by 1 point. And like,
wow,
just like within a couple minutes left of the for a final period. You know, that's kind of like hockey. That's the way hockey goes. It's like, you know, you just think like, you think, oh, I gotta, you know, oh, we're up by a couple of points. And, you know, 3 minutes in hockey is a lot of time in hockey. That's a lot of ice time still. You know, you can score in like 10 seconds. I know my kid's done it. So, you know.
Exactly. Hey, so did you play hockey when you were young?
No, I don't even know how to skate.
It's not called points. It's called goals.
Yeah, goals, right? So, yeah, exactly, right? So now you know I don't actually play hockey. But it's funny because I'm like, so, you know, like, you know, here I am, this two-spirit guy growing up, you know, don't even know how to skate. I'm raising two boys. Couldn't be more athletically inclined. They certainly didn't get those skills from me, or those genes from me even. But what I was going to say was that, you know, I didn't even learn really the rules of hockey until like after 3 or 4 years of them playing. So it was kind of like, you know, I'm still learning, you know, apparently I'm still learning that points are called goals.
Yeah. And then the blue line too. I think one of the things when I was a kid, if you remember the Saints, the WHA Saints, where Henry Boucher even played with them for a short time. They got rid of the blue line. So it made the game even faster.
Wow.
So, you imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. You know, I don't know.
What does the blue line do?
It's hard to say. Well, you have to, like, if you don't pay attention to the blue line, you could be quote unquote offside. So like you go into,
okay,
the zone, you go into your zone before, or the opponent's zone before the puck gets there. You can't cross that blue line until the puck crosses it.
And that what that stops is people just hanging around the goalie and waiting for a pass. You know?
Yeah. So I guess they really, I don't know.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a sport I have I have come to love deeply because my kids play it, but also like, you know, I know people who love baseball, and honestly, when I go to a baseball game, I'm like, man,
easy.
I know, but it is a little bit like watching paint dry. You are.
Well, a lot of time we won't get into that, but I do when it's playoff time in the NHL and when it's college and high school, when they let them skate, it is a great game. It really is a great game.
My sons are having the time of their life. It's their last year of bantam play. Next year, they're hopefully going to get into hockey, high school hockey. They're working really hard to get there. But you know, they're at the top of their game, and we're going to regionals on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you know, if we place in regionals, then we'll go to state. And you know, it's the never-ending season of hockey. Minnesota plays hockey all year long. They're like, whether there's ice or not, they just play. It's what they do.
Oh, it was really funny too. It used to be when I really followed the NHL, they would go all the way until May, and they go all the way into June now.
Like my sons will play off-season hockey. Like they'll play. I'm sending them to Wisconsin for like a week of solid high school hockey preparation. It's like 40 hours on the ice in 5 days. It's like a job. I told them it's like a job. So
right. That's great to have our natives involved in sports like that. I just found out through YouTube that Gary Sargent is Ojibwe and from Red Lake. And
you didn't know that? Yeah.
Gary Sargent was a big North Star when I was a kid. Hockey player. I was like, what?
Yep. For sure. Yeah.
And
my boys, you know, I don't know that there's a lot of, I would imagine like maybe up in Canada there's a lot of Dakotas who play hockey, but my boys want to be like what they say is the first twin Dakota boys playing NHL hockey. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, it would be cool. And you know, I have my official Hockey Mom cup.
That's great.
You know,
Hockey Mom on it.
Before getting too farther, when you lost your first game, do you remember what I text you about Karen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I told to get a Karen, hockey Karen, to yell at the referees.
Yeah, he said get a hockey Karen to yell at the referees. I was like, that's me. I am a hockey Karen.
Hockey Karen. That's hilarious.
All right. Hey, well, let's talk a little bit about nobody's wearing masks anywhere now.
It's like a whole new world. Like, if I was a starlet, I'd like break out into a Disney song right now. Whole new world.
It's a whole new
yeah, right. I don't even know which movie that's from. But I was gonna say that, like, I just had this conversation with my sons today, right? Because they rescinded the mask requirement for high school. I think last Thursday or maybe Wednesday at Prior Lake. And they have so I was driving him to school this morning and drop him off, and he's like, well, should I wear a mask? And I was like, it's not required, but it's really like, I would recommend it, especially like, there's 3,000 people in that little tiny school, right? And you got 40 people in your classroom and you're there for 50 minutes. So like, if you want to be really safe, yes, wear a mask. So, I can't regulate and legislate what they do when they're not in my, under my watchful eye, but, one wears a mask, one doesn't, we'll see what happens. But, I think one of the things that, and then they just relaxed a lot of the mandates. There's some evidence that seems to suggest that, that the masks don't really provide that much protection, not as much as we thought it did, right? I don't know. There's It's kind of an interesting, like, and I think that what happens when people sort of like hear that is I think there's a propensity as human beings for us to throw up our hands and say, well, they don't know nothing, right? And or like, why did I listen to these fools? And those kinds of things. And they start to question every single thing related to COVID. And I think what I try to tell reasonable-minded people that I'm in relationship with, I say things like, well, that's the nature of science. Like, we do our, especially we do our best to sort of like understand the data and understand like what we can extrapolate from experimental designs. They're not perfect, right? There is nothing. So there's nothing even that approximates perfection, but we do our best. And most of the time you have to run experiments a number of times before you can extrapolate to a high confidence level, which is 95% or higher. 99 is the greatest confidence level about your findings. And that takes time, right? And a lot of times I have to tell people, like, you have to remind them, like, we're only 2 years into this, right? We didn't know a whole lot.
I'm still wearing my mask, and it isn't because of my beautiful profile either. And I always am amazed too. People can recognize me with my mask on. I don't know if my nose is that big or what's going on, but I'm still wearing my mask.
Hopefully, if you're wearing your mask, it's covering your nose, because that's where you're supposed to wear it. But
right, oh yeah, but it's protruding through the mask.
It could be those profound, those piercing eyes that just kind of
eyes.
Yeah.
And Wendy's shaking her head.
Nose rolling my eyes.
Shoot. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna make, and I think it's still mandated in planes and
Travel. Trains, planes, buses. Yeah.
But I
don't mind wearing my mask either. I feel, especially in the plane, people are coughing and sneezing. Even before COVID,
Right.
Robert and I, if we were flying, we'd look at each other and like hold our, elbows over our mouths, because we knew that recycled air is just like,
Coming at me.
spewing germs all over the airplane. So I'm probably always going to wear a mask in the airplane, or in like really, small spaces where there's lots of people.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I would say is, like, I think that you have to use some intuition and some logic and some sort of just kind of like a few other things to sort of kind of make that decision. I know I have a number of people that I know who have, even after having been vaccinated fully and boosted, they still got COVID. They didn't get it even just once. They got it a couple of times. I have one relative who, she is an older female, and she got it like 3 or 4 times, right?
Wow.
Even after being vaccinated. And it's like, so like, try to remember, like, not all people are made exactly the same, and it doesn't have the same efficacy. Like, trust your body, trust your gut, trust your intuition, and use your wisdom, and look around you in your environment and ask yourself if it's wise to be using a mask or not.
Right on. Hey, stick with us, Dr. Stately. We're going to talk about some more hockey and some more COVID. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
Dinner after the show.
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up, and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me one. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Children's Minnesota raises up children's health by raising the standards. Hands, voices, the bar, the stakes, the questions, and the curtain on raising kids' health to the highest priority. With the most pediatric experts in the upper Midwest, we're setting the stage because kids need us, all of us. So let's raise them up so every kid can reach their best health. Children's Minnesota, the kid experts.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
I laid on the hall there. Sorry.
The cat didn't howl. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately from the CEO of Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and not to be confused with the great city of St. Paul, which Wendy and I are broadcasting from, the capital city. Dr. Stately, we talked a little bit in the beginning of the show about the 49th anniversary of Wounded Knee this past weekend, and I know your family was involved with AIM, and you're involved with AIM, and I'm involved with AIM. I played a clip from Clyde Belcourt, who was in the Badlands with me in 2020. He asked me to go to Wounded Knee with him, and played a little clip from him. What are your thoughts on this Liberation holiday?
Well, I think it's a interesting. I think it's really interesting time for us to sort of reflect on that. We're in the midst of I was just having a conversation with my sister in the car yesterday. We were talking about the stuff that's happening over in on the other side of the world, in Ukraine and Russia and the invasion, and and what's happening in that community, and we were talking about some of the comments we've been seeing from leadership from the Red Party over here, and then also some just people we know, and baffled how people don't understand the nature of colonization and imperialism and the way that it functions, right? It's how do you not get that this is the experience that Indigenous people had when this country was invaded and colonized by imperialistic powers, right? The things that you're seeing across the world, across the ocean, as the things that happened to our people, hundreds of years ago. And it's kind of one of those things where you have to recognize it's a really critical time for us to be thinking and having these conversations about displacement, forced removal, all these other things that have happened to us as Indigenous people historically that continue to impact our lives even now. Those are the things that we see happening all over the globe because we don't understand our history very well, right? We're disconnected from that. And that's a function actually of imperialism, which is to sort of do these things and then sort of mystify it and call it something different, right? And and sort of eliminate the truth, bury the truth, right?
Right.
And Wounded Knee was about a resistance. It's and then I think I think that anytime we as Native people show up in spaces like this, anytime we show up in on the steps of the Capitol, anytime we show up in in the classroom, anytime we show up in any space and place where we are able to sort of tell people the truth, and we are able to remind people of who we are and what our history is, and reclaim our right to sovereignty, to indigeneity. All of that is an active resistance to imperialism, and that's something we need to remember. It's never become more evident of the reason why we have to do those things than what we're seeing happening across the world on the other side of the ocean right now, right?
Right. When we were kids, and I always talk to Robert Lilligren about this because we're the same age, and we were juniors in high school when we were able to, in 1978, when we were able to practice our own religion. And a lot of that's a byproduct of American Indian movement and all the movements that came from that.
Yeah.
You're a byproduct of the American Indian movement for being a doctor.
Yeah, I mean those are the individuals that paved the way for a lot of the things that we have now, right? I mean, think about all of the things that we sort of have now today in our lives. I mean, I think about all the things that I have, like that are part of my daily life now that I didn't have when I was a kid. I didn't have when I was my kids' age, right? I didn't know anything about indigenous food. I thought indigenous food was fry bread and walleye. That's what I thought indigenous food was. Fried walleye at that, right? And so I think part of it is like the work that AIM, the women who started AIM and the men who continued that work and the people who continue to do that work today have laid the foundation and paved the road for people like me to be able to even imagine that I would be able to step into leadership, that I would be able to step into a space and place and become a doctor. Like I remember when somebody asked me, like, there was a very sweet, lovely white woman who was one of my professors in my undergrad. She was really sweet. She was just wonderful. And she said, like, have you ever thought of becoming ever thought about getting your PhD in psychology? And I looked at her and I literally said to her, like, I'm not smart enough to do that. And then the thought occurred to me, it's like, well, you might as well ask me to sprout wings and fly to the moon, because that would be more possible than becoming a doctor. That was the generation that I kind of grew up in, right? I didn't know that those things were possible. It took the work of people like Clyde and, all of Dennis Banks and the Means folks and all the women that were involved in AIM. They were the women it was women that started AIM, right? That called on our community to step in and protect our men in our community. And then the men took up arms and continued that work. And I think what that reminds me of is that there are spaces and places within the circle for all of us to sort of like, find our place, to do the work of protecting our community, protecting our young, carrying on the work of our ancestors. Every single one of us have a space and place in that circle. What we have to do is we have to look to search to find it and then commit to it and continue the work, because we are so far from sort of having true freedom, right? Right. We have semblances of it sometimes, but it's not true freedom in a lot of the ways that other people enjoy that.
I'm really proud, like, of your sons. I'm proud of our young ones that are picking up.
Yeah.
And, we didn't have that opportunity. So we lost like a generation and a half of language, of listening to stories. And I think the young people have really picked it up and are proud to be natives. And again, that's back from AIM, and
I tell people, I mean, I remember I had a conversation with somebody at one time. Somebody said, like, well, why do your sons play like hockey? That's such a white sport. And I was like, you know what? Like, let's just like, I was like, well, first of all, like, let's talk about like where the white people got the idea for hockey, right? Because that's been stripped of that history has been stripped. But also, I said the other part of it is like anytime we as Indigenous people step into something and we take ownership of it and we do it, it's an Indigenous thing, right? I tell my sons all the time, there is no such thing as boy this or girl that. There's no such thing as white this or indigeneity that. If you're doing it and you're practicing it, then it's Indigenous, because it's done from your heart, it's done with your body, your muscle, your bone, your blood, your spirit. It's Indigenous.
And I'm glad, like, for me in my story, especially when I was teaching, I know that it's not a race and we're all at different speeds. I mean, I didn't get my degree until I was later in my life, and I didn't do a lot of good things that I'm trying to do now until later in my life. So I mean, there's always hope for our young ones.
Yeah, absolutely. there is no time. We're all on creator's timeline, by the way, right? So
Right.
that's the truth of it, which is like, we don't, creator has a path for us and a plan for us. We don't always know what that is. And I was a late bloomer too. I didn't get my PhD until I was almost 40, right? Or 36 or something like that. Anyway.
I thought you were 40 now. What the
I
heck?
was doing research and development for a good portion of my life.
Yeah, me too. And now I learned the Serenity Prayer.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Stately, as always, for sitting in with us and having a conversation that's both truthful and informative. I really, really appreciate
Thank you. And I was actually really shocked tonight to learn that you're as old as Robert Lilligren.
All right. Hey, if you listen to the show, you're part of the resistance. You need to resist at best and join a group and run for office.
Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3.
Hi, this is Ken Hageland, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about your health and